Hello and welcome to Whale News. This is being recorded on the 19th of April. A humpback whale in the Baltic Sea, nicknamed by the public as Timmy, has stranded 3 times in shallow sandbanks off of a German island. So this is the story of a humpback whale that had been entangled in fishing gear and was potentially even involved in a boat strike. And as a result of this, was found in poor nutritional health when it stranded the first time. And its lack of health is also complicated by a skin condition linked to the low salinity in the Baltic Sea. Humpback whales don't usually come into the Baltic Sea. The whale first stranded in late March, and incredible efforts were made to help refloat the whale and return it to sea. Unfortunately, it then stranded 2 more times after that, and by the time of the third stranding, it was reported to be in very, very poor health condition. Rescuers in the second week of April began to give up hope to save the whale. And this leads on to why it's really been in the news, because this story has caused somewhat of a storm online, and there's even been reports that there's been another rescue attempt funded by millionaires. There are logistical problems and not just financial constraints with trying to refloat this whale. In mid April, more attempts have been made on a whale who at this point has severe external injuries and likely internal injuries as well. A humpback whale is extremely heavy when it strands. This will cause strain on internal organs and could even cause internal injuries. For this reason, conservation groups are opposed to further rescue attempts. Many members of the public may not have the full picture and will wonder why conservation groups are opposed to refloating a stranded whale. So I decided for this article, I'm going to shed some light onto the thought process behind this. Now, there are occasions when a healthy whale will strand. This is not one of those occasions. This is an unhealthy whale that has stranded multiple times. And the stranding is a symptom, it's not the cause. The poor health of the whale is the cause. Continued efforts to save the whale would have been fruitless and may just prolong the suffering of the whale. And in times like this, euthanasia is also considered a humane solution. But for a whale this large, the means to do this humanely just simply do not exist at this point. The only solution, really humanely, for this whale is to just let it pass naturally. Because due to its poor health, even if more attempts are made to refloat the whale is most likely going to either strand again, or it's probably not even going to survive even if it does make it to sea. Now, the British Divers Marine Life Rescue have explained this in way more detail than I could over on their website. I will link the article in the description. Now, if you are moved by this story and want to help with whales that strand, you can help by supporting organizations that work to protect whales from entanglements. Uh, organizations organizations like whale and dolphin conservation. The best way to prevent fishing gear causing strandings is to prevent the fishing gear actually getting entangled in the whales to begin with. Now, a resort in Singapore known as Resorts World Sentosa, that's had captive dolphins since 2013, is said to be looking to end its holding of captive dolphins. It's said to have put an end to its sourcing of dolphins caught in the wild for its aquariums, most notably in the Solomon Islands, and will end the breeding program that it has. However, the resort itself has not released anything formally on the subject. They also plan to assess options for their more than 20 indo-pacific bottlenose dolphins that were captured in the late 2000s, around 2008, 2009, in the Solomon Islands. One of these options, if animal welfare charities manage to succeed, could be potentially released back into the wild. These are wild caught animals, they could survive back in the wild again. This is something that the resort is trying to argue is not possible, and this would also meet political hurdles as well. Most notably by the fact that they will be re-released in the Solomon Islands, not in Singapore. Additionally, their native pods in the Solomon Islands are still to this day subject to hunts and captures by human beings. Since the captures of these dolphins, there's been huge public outcry, and these dolphins were labeled for a stage as the saddest dolphins in the world. And these were labeled by a Singapore animal welfare group known as ACRES. In the past, Resorts World Sentosa described their own facilities as providing a high standard of care that provides educational and conservational benefits. So this is the same standard corporate speech given by every marine park with cetaceans who want to try and avoid legislation and who want to avoid public outcry and mask over the terrible conditions that these intelligent animals are subjected to in captivity. So far, there has not been an official statement or transparency by the resort themselves. It is not known how many dolphins are on their premises, as the only way to access the back tanks is via an elevator and cameras are not permitted inside. The resort also reportedly has touch tanks for these dolphins, which further subject the dolphins to potential diseases and bacteria that are found on human skin. Also, I'd take this moment to give a quick PSA. Never touch a cetacean because we carry bacteria on our hands that is very dangerous for cetaceans. We're even discouraged from touching cetaceans during a rescue as well. The USA has repealed marine mammal protections in the Gulf of Mexico that are designed to protect species, including the critically endangered rice whale, but also bottlenose dolphins and various other species, from oil and gas drilling. We will have a video out, which might be part of the next podcast or might be its own standalone video, where we're going to talk about the last time drilling was allowed in the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to be talking about the Deepwater Horizon disaster, which created the largest oil spill in human history. The Waikato Department of Conservation in northern New Zealand, I hope I pronounced that right, is urging more care around orcas following an incident where several boats were found harassing a pod of orcas near a harbour on the 23rd of March. They're reminding boaters to stay away from the front of orcas and at least 50 meters away with a maximum of 3 boats within 300 meters. Those are their regulations. They're also asking for witnesses to come forward if they witness this event on the 23rd of March. The charge for harassing or harming orcas in New Zealand includes up to 250,000 New Zealand dollars in fines and up to 2 years imprisonment. And finally, we'll end off with some good news. So, the Pacific Whale Watching Association, who operate in the Sailor Sea, they are a private group consisting of researchers, whale watching captains, emergency response teams, professional boat captains, and more, have published a 36-page report based on 2025, where the group was responsible for over 1,400 actions, individual actions, that safeguard and protect cetaceans in the Sailor Sea. These actions include contacting other vessels in the area of whales, so that those vessels may slow down even if they haven't spotted the whales. This is particularly important because you got one problem with boaters that will try and speed near whales; they won't care. But the other problem is boaters simply just not knowing the whales are there. So this is very helpful. They also remove debris and report sick or injured animals. And they also report animals which have been entangled. These reports then lead to dedicated disentanglement teams who are then able to free the whales. So I mentioned this before on the channel that last August, I believe it was last August, the Whale Museum were involved in at least 2 disentanglements of humpback whales. And I also want to say on a personal note here, the Sailor Sea are really the golden standard in leading the way on what conservation should be in a body of water with loads of cetaceans. So what I want to know in the comments from you guys is, in your part of the world, you don't have to give too specific information. What kind of protections and groups are helping protect cetaceans in your part of the world? So I want to thank everyone for watching. If you like the video, if you want to keep getting more updates on the whale news, we do this monthly. Subscribe to the channel. We also do a monthly podcast as well. We also do Orca Watch, which typically comes out the week after this, which is mostly based on orcas in the Baltic Sea. And we've got some other really big videos coming out very soon. So thank you everyone for watching, and have a good rest of your day.